This is Bojack Horseman, obviously. A talented actor, the star of Horsing Around, and the Bojack Horseman
Show. Filbert, Secretariat, the upcoming horny unicorn, crippling alcoholic, and a stupid piece of shit.
Bojack has been the center of many criticisms, both from the characters within his story and viewers. Because for many, Bojack is a toxic figure concealed behind a facade of witty remarks, fake vulnerability, and false promises. A self-centered, narcissistic individual who spreads misery and leaves a wake of frustration. Today we're going to dive deep into Bojack Horseman's childhood and teenage years to gain a better perspective on Bojack's life, find out about his early efforts that have been less appreciated by many, and can see exactly why his attempt to better himself always ends up as a failure. We are not trying to absolve Bojack of his deeds, but we try to explain many of his annoying habits to offer you a new perspective. By the end of this video, it's up to you to decide to still see Bojack as a monster or show more compassion toward him. Sounds good? So, let's begin. In the repressive atmosphere of Horseman House, Bojack grew up as a passive observer. We don't see him initiating any conversations, and he only speaks up when he is forced to defend himself. Bojack's self-image shapes in an environment where he constantly needs to shield himself from his parents' ignorance and animosity. Betrays and Butterscotch's interactions with Bojack are just an excuse for them to vent their frustrations on him. If we pay attention to the content of their words, we will see that they are not actually talking to Bojack. Rather, their words are a kind of self-talk and self-consolation.
I cobbled together a sandwich for myself, so I'm the real hero of the story.
That's why Bojack harbors this internal sense that he simply doesn't exist. This issue affects Bojack in two ways. First, the lack of empathy from his parents makes him crave more attention. He learns to prioritize his issues just like his parents and cannot find a clear boundary between himself and the world around him. So he fails to acknowledge and appreciates others' perspective. Typically, a narcissistic person feels entitled and superior and has preoccupation with his self-worth. But we know that Bojack has the exact opposite feelings about himself. The special type of narcissism that Bojack suffers from can be understood in the framework of the Austrian psychoanalyst Heinz Kohut's theory. Kohut believed that narcissism develops during early childhood through the mirroring provided by caregivers. In the early stages, parents should treat their child as if he is the most important person in the world, and the child should be able to feel proud of his parents and see them as a prototype of men and women to internalize their values and ideas. And over time, especially during adolescence, when he starts developing the ability of abstract thinking, he starts seeing others' perspective and doubt about his parents and himself being the best and tries to find values in social life. When this process is disrupted, it can lead to the formation of what Kohut termed narcissistic disturbances, where that person hides his fragile self-esteem. Keep this process in mind when we provide examples of Bojack's life that turned him into pieces. So you see that Bojack's incessant complaining and self-absorption is a cry for help. The attention he needs is a form of reassurance that enables him to feel a sense of existence, rather than stemming from feelings of superiority. The second way that being ignored affects Bojack is by creating confusion within him about his role and his parents' expectations. Betrays said this sentence to Bojack many times.
You ruined me, Bojack.
But he can never associate this notion with any of his behavior. His parents are cold, reprimanding, angry, and unhappy, but the reasons behind their demeanor is completely unknown to him. And to make matters worse, Bojack was frequently left unsupervised, exposed to his parents' stash of cigarettes and alcohol. The lack of defined roles and expectations in the Horseman family deprives him of developing a sense of purpose. Bojack grew up a confused, repressed child, a child who never got to witness any real love and affection, and cannot link these concepts with the relationship between a child and his parents, or even with his parents to each other. And in this way, the notion of mutual affection and unconditional love is forever broken in him. While the reality doesn't have much to offer to Bojack, in order to solidify his character and seek hope, he inevitably takes refuge in Secretariat. Bojack's letter to Secretariat has a great psychological importance. So let's carefully examine this scene. 9-year-old Bojack starts by expressing his admiration for Secretariat.
Bojack writes, "Dear Secretariat, I am a horse just like you. I like to watch racing and you are my favorite racer.
Smart kid.
When I grow up, I want to be just like you."
After that, he begins to insist on explaining his joke, making certain he has captured its comedic essence accurately.
"And I think I'm on the right track. Get it? Track, because horses run on tracks, and you are a horse, and I am a horse. Do you get it? Do you get my joke about the track?" Okay,
We hear the same words from Bojack repeatedly later on, like the first time Herb attends his stand-up performance.
Have that long face? Horses have long faces.
These Peter words reflect his struggle to be recognized and of course understood, things from which Bojack has been denied. Next, Bojack asks a question from Secretariat that contains a
The
keyword.
question for you is, I am a good kid, and I like to play, and I like to go to school, but sometimes I get sad. What do you do when you get sad? How do you not
It's
be
clear
sad?
that young Bojack is defending his identity against the harsh realities of his life. Being good is Bojack's final line of defense. It's what prevents a total mental collapse.
Bojack, when you get sad, you run. Don't you stop running, and don't you ever look behind you. There's nothing for you behind you. All that exists is what's ahead.
These words offer sound advice to a child burdened by accumulating bad memories. However, it also fuels Bojack's self-centeredness. Never looking back is precisely what he did to Herb, Sarah Lynn, Charlotte, Diane, and many others. His entire life has revolved around running away from and leaving events behind. It's a lifestyle that primes Bojack for competition, propelling him even toward winning an Oscar, yet it never allows him to find stability. A month after that television interview, following a lifetime competition ban, Secretariat decides to end his life. And just like that, Bojack never meets his hero, and their sole indirect conversation becomes the cornerstone of Bojack's life. The teenage years are an opportunity for Bojack to strive for independence and search for his own identity beyond the confines of the family. However, his efforts are never officially recognized by his parents. Another problem is that Bojack lacks the necessary tools to effectively communicate with others. His behavior is peculiar with caution and uncertainty, and he doesn't know how to react when confronted with others' expressions of interest. All these patterns can be clearly seen in the course of a party held in the 80s. Before we get to that, we need to know why Bojack seems so clumsy. His life up to that point has been a constant stream of contradictions. On one hand, he knows how alcohol affects his parents. On the other hand, he witnesses the quietude of the family after they pass out from drinking. And more importantly, concepts that he should be sure of by that point, like loyalty or maternal love, had turned on their head. And now that he's looking for his personal and sexual identity, just like all teenagers do, these early experiences become a source of uncertainty. If he was mistaken about fundamental concepts before, what grounds does he have to be confident in his actions anymore? At the party, after being addressed in a derogatory manner by one of the school bullies,
Hey, it was just a nerd.
Bojack accepts to have a beer. Before that, he has a friendly encounter with Kitty, one of his classmates who clearly has an interest in him. After getting drunk, Bojack starts mocking his classmates and doesn't spare Kitty either.
Hey, remember last year when one of Katie's boobs grew bigger than the other?
Kitty leaves the room in tears, and Bojack pauses his laughter for a moment, but then decides to get back to drinking. The difference between the version of him before the party and the one after that is what motivates Bojack to consume alcohol. A never-ending loop of momentary joy, bad decisions, destructive behavior that lead to new bad memories that end up haunting him. In another important flashback, that also involves alcohol, we see Bojack taking lunch to his father and realizes that he is having an affair. Butterscotch acts very normal and tells his son how he has grown up into a man and now is the time to have a drink with his father. Bojack, who is a bit confused, accepts Butterscotch's offer, and maybe in that moment, sees drinking with him as an opportunity to form a connection. But in the next scene, we see that Butterscotch dosed him with enough alcohol to knock him out and used this incident to blackmail his son.
You went a little wild. You made a mess of my carpet, Bojack. I think your mother would be very disappointed in you.
Although these events prompt Bojack to avoid alcohol in his early youth, but in the end, The allure of false self-confidence resulting from alcohol consumption in the toxic and unhealthy atmosphere of Hollywood draws Bojack into reliving all the things he endeavors to forget. So the next time you watch the show, don't look at Bojack as a normal person who makes big mistakes, cause Bojack, in many ways, is still a child throughout his adulthood and struggles to communicate with individuals who've had a fair chance of navigating the challenges of childhood and adolescence. So it's fair to say that Bojack's mistakes are not admissible, but are understandable. Thanks for watching.